What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the current data points, what's really driving NIO higher, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So starting off, NIO is up 3.16%. The broader market is obviously pushing higher, but there is some specific news that is really helping NIO behind the scenes, and that is this right here. So it looks like China did announce some incentives. So it looks like they're going to be helping to transition people from higher emission vehicles to EVs, or even if they want just more fuel efficient gas cars. But still, I think this is good. Kind of funny if you think about it, because China did say that a lot of American companies wouldn't last without these same incentives that they're offering now. But still, beside the point, it doesn't really matter, because that should really help drive up demand for NIO. So that's kind of what's happening behind the scenes. And I think just in general, based on a lot of the things that have been coming out, so one of which was, I think, the whole Rivian and Volkswagen deal. You also had this, so Kellanova, that huge deal that was just announced. I think it was like 30+ billion last week. A lot of these types of transactions do not occur if there's more of a further downtrend anticipated. So I think a lot of these kind of points are signaling that the market is at a bottom and in theory ready to trend higher. So that's just my opinion. Obviously you guys believe what you want, but I'm going to go over some of the data points. And so starting off, fear and greed index has been improving tenfold. So basically 1 week ago we were kind of in the extreme fear category. So we are at 40 right now, meaning people's appetite for risk is increasing. Looking at specific news to NIO, there hasn't been any SEC filings, no press releases, nothing like that. So it's just been kind of just reacting to the broader market, and which in general hasn't been all that bad, because if you think about it, over this last 5 days, it is at 4.09%. Over the last 1 month, not so much, but it is recovering back to these levels, hopefully. So once I go over the technicals, it'll paint a little bit better of a picture. Latest round of 13F, so you do see somewhat mixed results. You do see some institutions reducing their position by, like for instance, Jane Street. Jane Street did reduce both their calls, puts, and actual common stock, whereas with other EVs, they were kind of doing the opposite. So wasn't necessarily the best, but you still do see some institutions that did increase around 104%. But as of right now, institutions are still kind of overlooking NIO. And I think you kind of generally know that. I do bring this up every single video, and that is this. So these are the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. And there has been none today so far. So institutions are still, like I said, overlooking it, which is very unfortunate. And one thing that I've brought up in the past, you do see a lot of articles bringing this up, in fact, but just the fact that NIO and other Chinese automakers are at a substantial discount. And so I've brought up the PS ratio in comparison to Lucid, Rivian, and many others. And you do see NIO right now is at 1.1 and the future is 0.8. So extremely discounted. It's kind of crazy. So once again, if the market is ready for more of an expansionary stage, this is where you could see this definitely have a lot more attention on it. And plus, like I've brought up in the past, assuming we are about to head into an expansionary stage in the market, and there is going to be back-to-back rate cuts that does happen in the States, you could see that rotation that I kind of signaled roughly around 1 month ago. And so that ultimately does mean that money from sitting in money markets is going to rotate back into equities, looking for value plays. And you can kind of argue the fact that even though NIO is burning quite a lot of cash, they do have a lot of good prospects for the future and could be seen as a discount play. So again, that's something to kind of just keep in mind. Looking at the options, or sorry, shorts right now, I'll give you guys a quick overview of that. Shorts aren't really doing all that much. They're increasing around 99,000 shares. 14.97% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 194.91 million shares. Cost to borrow average is very low, so 1.08, a little bit higher than last Friday though. Utilization 82.71, short score is 77.7, so good old lucky 7. You can kind of see that shorts haven't really been doing all that much. I think they were anticipating things to go a little bit worse for wear. didn't really go according to plan. So you can kind of see just shorts returning a little bit. So going from around 15.18 to where it is now. Still, it'd be nice to see it get back to kind of like 2023 levels where it was at 7%. And I've brought this up in, I think it was a Lucid video. I found this very weird. So if you compare a lot of EVs and their short interest, back when a lot of companies were bleeding 10 times more cash and just struggling so much more, there was a lower short interest than there is now. So it does show some levels of manipulation, but then again, that's greed for you, right? That's what the market's all about. Even though technically the fear and greed index isn't here, you do see a lot of hedge funds and whatever else trying to get their buck. So as of right now, looking at options, 785,000 in calls, 361,000 in puts. Sentiment wise, 57% of all the options being done are optimistic and bullish. So of course, kind of insinuating that there might be higher highs coming. I'll go over the technicals, like I said, in a second, but looking at some of the call options that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be around that $5 range. So more of a very positive kind of push higher. Then looking at puts, you do see a consensus for it to be sub 4. So in my opinion, the risk versus reward is very much in favor of upside. So right now with it at 409, it is right above this S2. It was kind of flirting and struggling with this S2, but as of right now, it is above it. So just watch for 408 to kind of be flirted with for the remainder part of the day, but hopefully closing above it, and that means it will trade between this S2 and this S1. So 427 will be that next strong kind of target slash resistance that you can kind of anticipate. And as of right now on the actual chart itself, today is transitioning into the higher percentile. Technically, that 50-day moving average will be a big one for NIO, so that's around that 430, so definitely watch for that. And then looking at stochastic, you do see it at roughly around 29, so still arguably considered oversold. So a good piece of news dedicated to, for instance, NIO, you could see a very nice bump up in the stock price associated to that. You also do see a nice bullish deviation, so white line above the red. At the same time, number of retail investors are getting into NIO. So all in all, I think a lot of the data points are looking very optimistic. The market in general as a whole is looking very optimistic. So I think NIO for the most part is going to piggyback off of that and hopefully propel it higher to maybe retest this $5 range once again, but we'll just have to wait and see. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with NIO? And have you been dabbling with options? I know a lot of options or individuals were really looking at trying out options and curious to see how that's been going. If you guys have been doing long, short calls, puts, what you've let me know. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it. They give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. Kick-ass deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.